It's not easy to birth a legend. Someone should ask my mum what it feels like, and it's even harder to rebirth a legend. That's probably why I always remained an only child. And of course, I'm talking about the rebirth of legends because I'm in beautiful France, the home of Renault, taking a look at the latest Renault 5 Electric, one of the most eagerly anticipated electric cars on the market. Hi guys, my name's Tish and welcome back to my channel Auto Social UK. Ever since they teased the Renault 5 Electric as a concept car back in 2021, I haven't been able to wait until I could get my hands on it, and I really don't think I'm going to be disappointed. In today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at the external and internal details, looking at a bit of the tech,
I am your co-pilot.
going over the prices and specs, and most importantly, getting to test drive it on these beautiful French mountain roads. So if that sounds good, then please keep watching. And if you like new car reviews and car content, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button. So there's no surprise that there's so much anticipation for the Renault 5 Electric. It is a legend reborn. And just before we look at the new model, let's take a little bit of a look back into the history of Renault 5.
The Renault 5, launched in 1972, was designed to meet the increasing demand for small efficient cars in the 1970s, particularly in urban environments. The car was available in a range of trims, from economical versions to sportier models, catering to a diverse customer base. By the time production ended in 1985, over 5.5 million units had been sold across 5 continents. Always ahead of its time, it was the first car to achieve fuel consumption below the symbolic 5 litres per 100 kilometres, and was even available in an electric version as far back as 1974.
So with a special place for Renault 5 in so many people's hearts, it's no surprise that this car is so eagerly anticipated. Since it was first revealed in its production model, we've seen a lot of the external and interior of this vehicle, but not many people have yet been able to get it on the road. So that's something I'm going to do right away. To keep costs down, customers have the choice of either a 40 kilowatt hour battery, getting around 190 miles of electric range, or a 52 kilowatt hour battery, and that boosts the range to about 250 miles. Although these figures for the UK are still being fine-tuned, but you can expect them to be there or thereabouts. The bigger battery car is also slightly more powerful, so that gets 150 brake horsepower, and that's compared to the 40 kilowatt hour battery, which runs 120 brake horsepower. The one final difference between these two batteries is the charging speeds. So both accept AC charging of up to 11 kilowatts, but the bigger battery car can hack a bit more power from DC charging, with speeds up to 100 kilowatts compared to the smaller battery, which can accept up to 80. Now, before we talk about the driving dynamics, if you'd like to learn more about how you can earn a bit of extra cash from your electric home wall box, then you might just want to listen to today's sponsor.
Turn your EV into an income generator with Juice Up, the app that lets you rent out your charger to other drivers using a friendly online community. Members can access bookable, affordable and reliable EV charging in places where public chargers may be unavailable. And with the promo code AUTOSOCIAL, you can enjoy 180 days free with zero service fees. So download Juice Up for iPhone and Android now and electrify your journeys.
And just as I found myself on this slightly twistier part of this mountain road, it's a great time to talk about those driving dynamics. It's something which I didn't always have the highest expectations when it came to the Renault 5, because it has around 150 brake horsepower, so there are more powerful cars like the Mini Electric on the market. And also we know that a spicier version of this car in the form of the Alpine A290 is to come. So I thought that when it came to the Renault 5, it would be a little bit dull and boring to drive. But how wrong I could be. And let's face it, 150 brake horsepower may not be the most when it comes to EVs, but when you think about hot hatches or warm hatches, some of the best warm hatches had around 150 brake horsepower. And of course, because of the instant throttle response you get from an electric car, it feels a lot quicker than those cars. You just don't always have the sound to back it up. You also have good regenerative braking. Some people may find it a little bit strong in its B mode, which is what the car starts up in, but actually I really like it, and it is quite possibly almost a one pedal drive. It will slow you down quite significantly, but it won't bring you to a complete stop, so very nearly there anyway. So when it comes to steering, the steering is really good in my opinion. If you have it in either the comfort or the eco mode, it's really light, and that makes it nice to manoeuvre around towns and cities, and it's got a really good turning circle as well, so it is really easy to manoeuvre around those tight areas. But then when you get out onto a road like this, if you pop it into the sport mode, this kind of sharpens the throttle response, gives you a bit more power, gives you all of the access to that 150 brake horsepower, and it also stiffens the steering, which to me, I think is essential because it makes this car just really good fun, and it makes it quite chuckable as well. Now, when it comes to EVs, it's pretty lightweight. It weighs about 1.5 tons, and whilst that sounds heavy when you compare it to combustion models, in terms of EVs, that's pretty lightweight. And because the batteries are all down underneath the floor, it gives it a really low centre of gravity, and that means that it really sticks in the corners. It's also got quite a controlled understeer as well. It doesn't understeer that bad, which just means in general you can have quite a lot of confidence taking this car around the corners, which for me is a huge plus. Those of you who watch my channel are always so quick to tell me that you're fed up of SUVs and everything looking the same. And even Renault haven't been immune to that. They have bought out so many SUVs in the recent months, which essentially all look like Russian dolls. And that's a shame, because clearly they can build something truly impressive. Because this goes against everything that boring SUVs stand for. This is a very striking car. Of course, the majority of the cars that we're looking at are in this wonderful Kermit green, and also you have the bright yellow as well. But what I love about these paint colours in person is there's so much glitter to the paintwork. It's not a flat, bright colour, it really has loads of depth to it. It also looks fantastic, contrasted with the black elements. I really like the black cladding around the wheels, and you've also just got the gloss black trims around the bodywork. The one thing that I'm not too sure about is this red bar which runs around the windows. For me personally, I just think this is such a good looking car that it didn't need this extra little bit of embellishment. But that really is being picky, because other than this little bit of red embellishment, which comes as standard with the black roof pack, by the way, and there are hundreds of combinations that you can have on this car, because all over you'll find different graphics. So you've got a graphic down the side here, you've got a graphic on the rear, you can also get a graphic on the roof, you can get different colourways, different roof colours. As I said, you can get the different bar colours, and they did say that not at the moment, but you may be able to change the colours of those bars in the future as well. So it's really a chance to make this car very, very much your own, rather than having something that everyone else has as well, which I think might end up happening because this car seems to be very popular online. All versions come with 18-inch alloys as standard. I do prefer the wheels that are fitted to the yellow car. I feel like the wheels that are just fitted to this green one here, they don't feel very Renault to me. They look like they come from another brand, and I really like a Renault wheel, so I really like the ones that are fitted to the yellow. But either way, 18-inch wheels on all levels of the trims is fantastic, because that means no matter which spec you go for, you're getting a fantastic looking car. But there is some really cool nods to the past when it comes to the Renault 5. So here's 5 very cool features.
The iconic Renault 5 Turbo featured an air vent on the bonnet. In a nod back to this, the Renault 5 E-Tech puts an electric twist with a light-up 5, but even cooler. This 5 actually illuminates in sections of 20%, depicting the state of charge in the vehicle. Inside the lights, you'll find a French flag, important because of the car's heritage, but also the fact that it will be built at the Renault Electricity, the EV dedicated factory in France. Part of that extensive list of customisation includes an interchangeable gear selector tip. There's a digital personal assistant called Renault.
I am your co-pilot.
This helpful little guy can plan trips, make calls, and control the climate functions.
I sense that there might be a risk of windscreen fog. Should I activate the demisting?
Oozing with French charm, the little five even gives you a cheeky wink as you approach the car.
So which of those 5 cool features do you think is your favourite? For me, I think it's got to be the wink. It's so cute. But that's all the exterior covered. Why don't we check out the interior? From launch, there's 3 different trim levels for the Renault 5. You have the Evolution, the Techno and the Iconic. Now the one that I have is the mid-spec Techno, and I hadn't seen too much coverage on what the interior of these cars were like, but I'm really pleasantly surprised. It has to be remembered that this car has been produced to be slightly cheaper than the rest of the cars currently on the market, a cheaper offering to get people into electric cars. So it's not perfect, and there are cheaper materials in places, particularly on the tops of the doors, and I don't really like the material down the centre console. But honestly, all can be forgiven when this does come with a lower price point. In fact, starting from as little as £23,000, which I think is really impressive. If you go for this bigger battery model, and if you go for the mid-spec Techno, of course those prices are going to start to rise, which I'll talk about in a moment. But in terms of the interior quality inside of the Techno, I really like it. So you've got a mix of almost a denim, and then you've got the leather or leather-esque down the sides of the seats. You've got contrasting stitching, you've got the stripes across them. Once again, these are the perfect blend of feeling a little bit retro but also being modern. Really nice steering wheel, lifted out from the rest of the range, and I really like the multi-sense button. I love the fact that you can change the drive modes on the steering wheel. I think that makes it really, really easy. You've got the 2-screen setup as well, and you also get Google satellite navigation from standard in this mid-spec Techno. Spec is brilliant. In fact, you get quite a lot as standard. So let's quickly go over the specifications and what you get included.
As mentioned, the 5 lineup will consist of 3 core models. Evolution will be fitted only with the 40 kWh battery and will start from £23,000. The Techno that I've been driving will have the choice of either battery and will start from 2k more. The top of the range Iconic will only be fitted with the larger 52 kWh battery and will demand a further 2k premium. Do the maths, and the top spec Renault 5 should still sneak in under £30,000, still less than the base spec Mini Electric. All models will get lots of safety tech, a heat pump and wireless charging.
So it seems to me like you're getting quite a lot of value for money. When it comes to the rear design, Renault have gone a bit more simplistic, but I think that really lends to the styling of the 5, because they could have over-styled, but actually I think this is very cohesive and works extremely well. Now, of course, the one thing that I don't like, similar to around the front, is I'm not a massive fan of the red bar. I just don't think it adds anything, and I could have done with a slightly larger spoiler, but that's just me, and maybe we can hope for when it comes to some special editions or for some sportier versions, or even the Alpine 290, we can expect a much bigger rear wing. You have got a rear windscreen wiper, which is fantastic, and rather than going for the light bar across the boot, as many other brands have done, instead you've got these very, very cool retro 3D lights, which just hug either side of the car. Now, inside the boot of the Renault 5, it's actually best in class. So inside here, you get 326 litres of boot space. That's over 100 litres more than you'll find in the Mini Electric, or you'll find in the Fiat 500 Electric, and it's also quite a lot bigger than you get in the Vauxhall Corsa E as well, so all very good stuff. There is, however, quite a large load lip to contend with that drops down quite far, so getting heavy items in and out is not going to be all that easy. There is also some space underneath the boot floor, which is enough to pop your charging cables, which is nice to see. But there are areas of the boot which I just think are a little bit cheap. And that includes this parcel shelf that feels a little bit flimsy, and just the details used inside the boot, the handle, that feels a little bit cheap as well. But at the end of the day, we are looking at a car which sits at a lower price point than a lot of its competitors. So I think small things like that can be forgiven. So what about space in the back? To be honest, it's the getting in and out which is the trickiest part, because the roof is quite low down, so you do have to duck your head quite far down to be able to get into the back of the Renault 5. But once you are in the back, it's not too bad. It's very competitive to this class of car. Things like the Peugeot E208 or the BYD Dolphin, they're all very similar sizes when it comes to the rear. I've got an okay amount of headroom. It is a little bit tight because you sit on the batteries, so you sit up a little bit higher, but actually I'm 5'5" and I've still got a decent amount of room. I've also got a good amount of leg room as well, although this chair is set up to my driving, so a 5'5" person. Maybe if you had a really tall person in the front, you're not really going to be able to sit many people behind them other than children. But that's the same for all class of cars. When it comes to amenities, there's not a lot to report actually. This is a bit disappointing to me. You've got pockets on the backs of the seats, but you haven't got any rear charging, you haven't got any rear cup holders in the centre or in the doors, and also the door handles just feel a little bit awkward. They're a little bit too far back. But I really am being nitpicky for what elsewhere is an extremely good car. If you work at Renault, just do me a favour, and for this first 30 seconds, just cover your ears for a sec. Because when people ask me, was I excited for the new Renault 5, my answer was, I was excited. I was excited when they first launched the car back in 2021. I thought that it was innovative, it was different, it had good range figures, and it promised a low price point. But we've waited so long for the Renault 5, and my excitement had started to fizzle out. All until I stepped out of that airport and I saw those array of skittled coloured Renault 5s, and instantly the spark for the car was alight once more. This car really is an exciting model which defies everything else which is being released. It's compact, but it still has decent range and charging capabilities. Sure, they're not the best when you compare them to other larger cars on the market. But if I have to have the trade-off for 50 miles to get a car of this size, then I think that's well worth it. But it's just so clear that Renault have let their designers have all the free rein they want to create a really exciting and nostalgic model. I really love the Renault 5, and I'm glad that the test drive backed up the styling and the interior tech. But let me know, what do you think of the Renault 5? Are you pleased with the results of this car, or was you wanting a little bit more? Let me know in the comments down below. I really hope you have enjoyed the video. If you have, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to see more, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'm going to enjoy my drive back down to the airport.